at the tool panel. So we've got this guy over here, it's called the tool panel. The one at the top is a control panel, and this side over here is a general panel. So on our tool panel, that's where you'll find what Adobe thinks are the most useful tools for Illustrator. So you'll see lots of different things coming up in here. If you hover over them, the name of the tool will come up. It's really helpful. Also, anything with a little triangle next to it, if you click and hold, you'll get more options there. So that's a really handy tip. So if you're looking for something, it's quite often hiding in there. So just click and hold on anything with a little triangle on the side, and you'll be given more options. So as you can see, I've drawn a rectangle here. So on our rectangle, it's really important for us to understand that we have a stroke and a fill. So the stroke is the black line around the outside. Every shape and picture has this. So Adobe always creates a product with like a border and a fill color for that. So they're up here. The stroke, as you can see, is black. It's the one that looks like an outline, a border. That's kind of other names for a stroke, but in Adobe we call them a stroke. So if you click down on that and change that color, you'll see that that will change as I click around. And then the color on the inside, the green, that's our fill. So you'll see our fill color changes if we are using this one here. So the fill one is the full one, and the stroke is the outside, so the fill and the stroke. They're really important to understand so that you know that you've sort of got both. You can also change your stroke weighting. So 1 point, and then you can keep going right up, and you can see that that'll get thicker and thicker. It really just depends on sort of what you're after. So I'm going to go back to 4 points. So that's our stroke and our fill up here in our control panel. You've also got just different options for the tool that you're or the thing that you're working with at the moment. So it's telling me that I was working with rectangle there. So that's really helpful. Our control panel controls the tool. The tool is what you're working with at the time. So tool, control. So the first tool, and one of the most important tools, is our selection tool. Its keyboard shortcut is the letter V. The only time that this doesn't work is if you are in the type tool and when you will actually have to click out of it in order to go back, but the letter V will get you back to the selection tool. This one allows you to move things around. It'll allow me to resize this shape, move it in and out, those kinds of things. If I hold shift while I resize that, it'll resize it proportionately to the shape instead of sort of changing the shape, if that kind of makes sense. So I can change the shape, but if I hold shift, I can't. It'll just bring it smaller. So if you see my mouse, I'm going down, but the shape it's going smaller in proportion to what it originally was. So the direct selection tool allows you to move things around. One of the most commonly used tools in Illustrator, because it is, how you move things around. So there's that. Then we have the direct selection tool. So the direct selection tool, its keyboard shortcut is the letter A. Again, if you're in the type tool, you cannot use this because you will just type the letter A. So direct selection tool, it's going to allow you to select individual parts of shapes, photos, text, all those kinds of things. Whereas the selection tool will just select the whole thing. So direct selection tool is always white, the actual selection tool is always black. So this guy is going to allow me to select one of the elements of this, so one of the anchors. These are called anchors of this. So one of the biggest problems that I find that I have with my students is that they go from the selection tool, they've selected the object, they've moved it where they wanted it, and while it was still selected, they changed to direct selection, clicked on this corner, and went, miss, it doesn't work. Okay. At the moment, all 4 corners of this shape are selected, so the direct selection tool thinks you've selected all 4 on purpose, and that everything that you do to one corner, you want done to another corner. So the way that you get out of this is by clicking on a corner. You'll see that the other 3 corners have gone white now, whereas this one is blue. This little anchor point is blue, whereas these ones are now white. Can you see that? So as soon as that happens, then it's saying, okay, you've selected this anchor point and you want to move just that anchor point to create a different shape. So I've clicked on that one again, and I'm going to move that one in like this. Okay, I can move it in, so I'm creating this sort of shape. So the other thing that our direct selection tool does really well is you'll see that these little circles come up. These are a really relatively new feature for Illustrator. So these are going to create, so I'm going to click on one. Again, it's going to go blue. The others should all still be white. And if I pull, it will create a curved edge in there for me. And that will just get bigger, bigger, bigger. So that will be on the inside. You can also pull them here. So that's going to do all of them because I think I must have had them all selected there somehow. So just be aware that those guys are there. So you've either got one selected or you've just got all of them selected. So you need to be aware if they're all moving, just go back and individually select one of them. It's no big deal. Yeah. So that is your selection tool and your direct selection tool. They are really, really important as far as Illustrator is concerned because you're always moving things around. You're always sort of changing the shape of them, and those two tools are sort of the way to do that. I always keep V sort of in my back pocket because that's the one that's going to get me back to my general selection tool, which is the most commonly used tool in my opinion.